Hello and welcome back. I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're watching Sydney Direct on Dukascopy TV. Tonight I'm at the launch of the BFO Student Ambassador Programme. I spoke with CEO of Emergent Solutions, Holly Ransom, one of the speakers at tonight's event, also attended by RBA Governor Glenn Stevens. Holly, many thanks for taking the time to chat with Dukascopy TV today. It's a pleasure to receive you.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So we're here this evening at the launch of the BFO Student Ambassador Programme. How crucial do you think agendas such as this are for particularly the youth sector coming through into the financial services industry?
I think it's really important. I mean, increasingly we're seeing young people wanting to see a purpose and a connectedness to the workplaces they're going into. And I think one of the challenges that this industry at large has been painted with, and it's been a pretty much a one stripe across all, is since the global financial crisis happened, and with a number of incidents that have happened in the industry since, alleged inappropriate advice and those things we've seen play out, a lot of the conversation has been the negative. A lot of the conversation has been unethical standards. And I think young people are looking for a sign that I can come into this sector with a purpose, I can want to do good, or I can believe in a way of operating and I can have a space and a vehicle to do that. And I think it's the industry standing up and saying, for all the bad press that we've copped, we do believe in an ethical way of doing things, and here are all the leaders that are behind this way of working and operating. And that's really exciting and encouraging for young people to see.
From a lot of your experience with the Youth Summit, G20, etc., are you really seeing sort of young graduates and people coming into the workforce and wanting that authenticity, that transparency, that ethics from their workplace?
Absolutely. You're seeing that across the board when you look at, as I have a lot of conversations actually with CEOs who are saying, you're the first generation who are sitting down in job interviews and asking us for the gender diversity strategy, for how many days will I be able to get paid to volunteer, for tell me about your values. I mean, they just say they're questions we haven't been asked before. And so they're seeing that demand-driven type initiative from the young people that are coming through and prospectively wanting to work for them. So I think it's very evident, particularly in the Australian workplace. I hear CEOs commentated about it a lot.
How is the financial services sector responding then? What changes are we actually seeing from companies? We heard this evening from RBA Governor Glenn Stevens, who said that actually those sort of malpractice or cultural issues, are still in the headlines. What are companies actually doing?
Well, I think that's an example of where the Oath's really wanting to step in and prove that there's industry-led initiative. Now, I'm sure there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, but this is putting something front and centre and saying it's not just the regulators that are coming down and are implementing or forcing upon the industry new standards. We're wanting to show that we're setting the tone ourselves and we're taking proactive steps to be able to do things differently. So I think this is a really good example. I mean, as to specifics, you'd have to go and speak to the businesses. I think what we know is that more does need to be done. There is a need for a cultural shift within the industry at large, but these are signs, and there are businesses that are doing the right thing that are good places to work. So we need more of that to be role modelled and made example of.
And how do you think, so if we consider this as sort of the root of the organisations, then how does this trickle through into the actual products and into the actual investment ideas and the actual concepts that are being put out there into the general consumer space?
And this is a really interesting one. I think increasingly we're seeing more of a fusion of the customer and employee value proposition. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing this is because we've got a demand drive, particularly amongst young people, for greater transparency and accountability. So it can't just be, here's our corporate social responsibility practice anymore. Because if your supply chain isn't ethical, or I don't think you treat your employees well, then you don't fully pass the test. You're not actually being truthful about the way that you operate and do business. So I think what we're needing is this integrated and values-driven approach to the way businesses run, full stop. And that's every touch point that the consumer can have with you, and that could be as an employer or that could be as someone that's purchasing goods and services. Now, I'd say in that regard, we probably haven't moved that significantly. We've got a bit of a risk appetite aversion around perhaps some of the new products, the investment in the impact space and the social impact bonds and these creative measures for finance that are perhaps being driven with a greater purpose or ethical element. I think that'll come, but we're certainly early days.
Holly, thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Great comments there from Holly Ransom. Our absolute pleasure to hear from her. That is all we've got time for right now, but I will be back with plenty more exclusive interviews for you right here from Sydney, Australia. For now though, it's goodbye.